Hi, I'm Lisa Books Williams. I'm 46 years young and I live in Pleasanton, California. Well, 2 years ago, I was 100 pounds heavier in the 280s, and I had a myriad of health problems ranging from severe complications from my autoimmune thyroid disease called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I also had issues with fatigue, severe headaches. I would have spikes in my mood where sometimes I would just feel sad and I wouldn't know where this sadness or this anger feeling was coming from. And I also felt this incredible compulsion and addiction to keep eating. So if I had one bite of a processed food or a sugar item, I felt compelled that I had to keep eating it. And then it would just make me feel weird afterward emotionally. And so those were some of the big issues that were going on. I also had a lot of anxiety whenever I was eating a lot of the unhealthy and processed foods. I would have a lot of anxiety throughout the day. Well, I'll put it like this. I was always thinking about food. No matter where I was, food was the main thing on my brain. So I'd be out on a date with my husband and we'd be having a nice conversation and a nice meal. And I would be thinking about, ooh, what am I going to have for dessert? Instead of enjoying our time together, because food was always at the forethought of my mind. And I'd be working with my special needs clients and I'd be thinking, man, I can't wait to leave here and go eat at such and such a place. And that was one of the biggest issues, was the mental obsession over food, and the once I ate it, the compulsivity of wanting to keep eating it. And the foods that I was eating and thinking about, mind you, were not the healthy type of foods. And additionally, after I would have a compulsive binging moment, I would feel terrible about myself. I would feel like, what a stupid piece of crap I am for doing that. Why would I do that to myself? I know that I was eating unhealthy food and I would beat myself up in my mind. And I just hated myself for what I did, but yet I felt this obsession and this compulsion to keep doing it over and over again, even though I knew intellectually that I was harming myself. Well, when you're more than 100 pounds overweight, it's really hard for you to embrace what your body has morphed into. And I say morphed because it's severely distorted. It just felt like I had a tire on me all the time and my joints hurt, and I felt hot all the time. And sometimes I wished that I could just take a machete and cut some of this fat off of my ass and stuff like that, because I hated it so much. And then I found out about these support groups of fat acceptance, and I thought, well, maybe I could become one of those fat acceptance types, but I couldn't, because deep down I hated myself and I hated all this extra weight on my body, because I knew that it was killing me, just as it had done to my father and other relatives. Well, every fat person has a humiliating story, and the pain of those incidents stay with you forever. And I wanted to share two of them. I was with my niece at Great America, and I was so excited because they had come out to visit me from Pennsylvania. And I wanted to ride on one of the roller coasters. And so I never really thought that I would be too fat to be on a ride. And so I sat on the ride, and it came time to get the bar down. And this was a busy summer day, and there were lots of people on the ride and in the line, and the bar wouldn't go down. And then so the attendant had to come and was pushing the bar down but couldn't get the bar down. And so then the attendant called over another attendant, and they're both trying to push and push and push. And the people on the ride are saying, "Get off, you fat slob." And then they were like, well, we're sorry, ma'am, you're just too big for this ride. And so I had to step off and walk past all these snickering people, and it was just excruciatingly humiliating. And so I said to myself, I'm going to lose weight, and I'm going to be able to ride a ride. And I have since been able to ride all the rides at Great America. And another embarrassing incident that I wanted to share, when you are morbidly obese, your skin can get really compromised, especially between the rolls of fat. And I was getting out of the shower, and as a fat person, you have to dry yourself off really well, between your rolls of fat, and you have to be gentle with it too, because your skin is very tender from the fat being on top of each other. And so I dried myself off too hard under one of my fat rolls, and I ripped the skin open, and it started bleeding, and it was just excruciatingly painful. And I just, grabbed a bunch of gauze to help with the blood, and I just was so humiliated too at the same time, that I had allowed myself to be so fat that my fat over my fat ripped open, and that was just very embarrassing. Even though nobody was there with me, I had to wear like big things of gauze under my fat rolls to soak up the blood and keep it from touching while it healed. And it was just a sad reminder of what I had let myself become. My self-esteem, you don't have much self-esteem. I would try to be the best dressed person at the office, at the facilities I worked at. And so I was wearing designer clothing, but it was huge designer clothing. And it was just covering up the fat, because I thought, well, at least I can look good. I can, at least be the best dressed person in the office, even if I am the fattest one. And, but with regards to my quality of life, you realize when you walk into a room, you look at all the chairs and you say, I wonder if I'm going to be able to fit into those chairs. And you walk into a restaurant and you say, well, can I fit in that booth? Am I going to be able to fit behind that booth? As a woman, when you have fat thighs, you wear pants a lot, because wearing a dress and walking, your legs will chafe together because of all the fat, and you can get a rash. And so I wasn't wearing dresses, and I kept having to buy a lot of pants because of the fat in my legs. My legs were constantly rubbing together, and I was constantly wearing out my jeans. So just reminders on a daily basis of what being fat is like. And on an airplane, sitting on the end seat, and then somebody taking the window and realizing nobody wants to sit in the middle seat next to the fat person. And these are just constant reminders that do affect your self-esteem and do affect your quality of life. With a lot of the diet programs where you had to count points, or you had to just eat what they tell you to, it felt restrictive. I still felt hungry, and I felt kind of resentful. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I felt kind of resentful, like, why can I only have this much? Or why are they telling me I can eat this bar, but I can't have this? And so needless to say, I've lost lots of weight, but I've always gained it back plus, because I could never stick to anything. And then you try to do the diet and then you fail and you feel worse about yourself. And so other plans just weren't working for me. Well, in 2004, I made the decision that I wanted to become a vegetarian for health reasons, for ethical reasons, and for environmental reasons. And switching to, primarily vegetarian plant-based diet, I started eating a lot more carbs. And eating a lot more carbs, I started to see myself getting bigger. So that was when I made the decision. But it was about 2 years ago, and more specifically a year ago, that I said I'm going to eat a healthier vegetarian plant-based diet. And that's when I started to see changes in my life, in how I felt physically and emotionally, by getting off of all of the processed foods, getting off of the sugar, and definitely getting off of the flour. The carbs that I'm referring to are not the good carbs that are coming from fruits and vegetables and whole grains such as brown rice and millet and quinoa. I'm talking about the carbs that are refined, coming from sugar and flour and bread and all of those type of carbs, and white pasta and things like that. Because I wanted to add that when I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I also received a diagnosis of celiac disease. And as a matter of fact, the endocrinologist said to me that my Hashimoto's disease more than likely started in my gut, and that eating gluten products for all of these years and not knowing that I had celiac, which is a disease where gluten causes a lot of problems in the intestinal lining, produced a severe state of inflammation in my body. And so that also contributed to my weight. But once I got rid of those inflammatory causing gluten products and refined carbs, I just started feeling better and losing weight and getting healthier. What made me give up the gluten was when my endocrinologist said, you should give up the gluten, with the diagnosis of the Hashimoto's, because previously I had been diagnosed as having a thyroid condition, but Hashimoto's is a much more severe autoimmune thyroid disorder. So it was the doctor saying that my disease started in my gut and saying that I also had celiac, which was what made me definitely give it up. 2 years ago also, I had done a video for a prominent organization here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was in my chef outfit, and I was like aghast. I was like, oh my God, I look so fat. I look so horrible, and I'm wearing my white chef outfit, and it was just, I was like, ugh. And I was like, I've got to make changes. I've got to make changes, because if I'm creating these healthy recipes, I need to be an example to the people that I want to share these recipes with. And so I started on my journey, and the first year was slower because I was still eating gluten products. But the last probably 10 months have been where I've seen most of the remarkable change since getting rid of the gluten. Since I've got off of gluten and processed foods, I've benefited with weight loss, which is, the thing that I'm the happiest about. But also I feel that I have better digestion of my food. I have better sleep. I'm sleeping better. I also just feel better in my body by having all the wonderful fruits and vegetables and whole grains and beans and such. And one of the things that is the biggest is that I don't feel that addiction, that obsession, and that compulsion that I used to feel when I was eating a lot of the processed foods. Now that I've lost 100 pounds, my life has changed dramatically. I feel really good about myself, and I am just anxious to start the day. I don't have those mood swings that I used to have, like a feeling that would just come out of nowhere, like an anger feeling or anxiety feeling or a frustration feeling. I feel more happy, more joyous, and more free. I feel more confident in myself with my relationship. And when you're really fat, you're limited with what you can do in the amorous department. But losing weight, you can do a lot more. And I'll just say that, okay? and and I just feel better about myself. So I feel more free and more loving and more giving with all the people around me. And they say that they've seen a change in me, not only physically, but also spiritually. And I believe that that 100 pounds was a lot of not just fat, but also a lot of darkness, a lot of hurt, a lot of sadness, and a lot of misery. And now that that's been lifted off of me, I just feel freer. and every day I'm enjoying life more. And I still have more weight to lose, but I'm so much better than I was 2 years ago. Well, I'd like to say two more things that have greatly impacted me on my journey towards health. The first one is spirituality. And I believe that for myself, having a belief in a higher power has been essential to helping me with my success and having an attitude of gratitude. And before, I used to be so angry and just mad at the world, and mad at God, saying, God, how'd you let me get to be so fat? And the truth is, I had to own what I did to myself. I had to be in acceptance and say, I made myself this way. I take responsibility for making myself this way. So what am I going to do about it? And I just said, God, please help me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And so once I finally surrendered and said, God, take away this desire for this obsession with the sugar and the compulsive eating. And I was able to just be more successful with my eating program. And also, one of the things that was really a big thing in my life was fear. I was so afraid of everything. And one of the things I was fearful of was moving. I was like, I'm too fat to move. If I go to the gym, everybody's going to stare at me and laugh at me. If I try to do this exercise, I'm going to fail and I'm going to hate myself even more. But I realized I had to get over my fear. And so I started moving and exercising. And now I go to the gym regularly and I love it. When I'm on the elliptical machine, I'm like going back and forth and I'm smiling. And I look over at the other people in the gym and they're texting or they're watching television or they're just have this like mad look on their face. But I'm happy because I know that I'm doing something good for myself. And so if I'm not in the gym doing aerobic or cardio exercise, I'm doing weights. And if I'm not there, I'm outside in nature, walking at a brisk pace or doing sprints up the hill. And I'm loving this body that I'm in, and I'm working every day at making it healthier through exercise, through gratitude, and through healthy eating. I plan to stick with this way of eating because it's also a spiritual program of eating, not just a diet. It's a lifestyle change. And I am grateful for what this type of eating has done for my body and what it has done for my mind. I don't have that mental obsession anymore. It's been lifted. And I know deep down in me that if I pick up a candy bar or I drink a Coke or I start eating that processed food again, there's some kind of a hook in it or something in it that will make me start the process all over again of the addictive eating. And well, I believe that I have an addiction to processed food and sugar and flour, and I don't want to be an addict. And one of the things to help you with addiction is to stay away from the item that you're addicted to. And so that's why I plan to keep on this path and to stay away from the foods that have weighed me down and kept me down for a lot of my life, because I have so much more living to do. Well, a lot of people are concerned about whenever they hear like plant-based eating or vegetarian eating or healthy eating. But let me tell you, you can make healthy eating delicious. There are so many different types of grains and beans and spices and vegetables and fruits, whole grains, that you can combine them in such ways to make delicious, healthy, nutritious, and satisfying meals. So believe me, you won't be bored. So if you're worried or concerned about having creative, delicious, and innovative food, you don't need to worry anymore, because I have a recipe book coming out entitled Lisa's Cook and Uncook Book, Healthy Recipes to Make Your Taste Buds Sing. And in my book, there will be many, many recipes that are plant-based, and some are cooked, and some are not cooked. So that book will offer you creative, inspiring recipes to help you achieve your health and weight loss goals. So keep an eye out for it. It should be out at the beginning of 2013. I'd like to show you on my belt, because now I'm wearing a size 14. So here is where I am right now with my belt, and here's where I used to be. And as a matter of fact, this used to be even too tight for me, even with the belt loop right here. So I'm so grateful to be in a size 14 right now, and I feel so good about my body. I still have more weight to lose, but I'm on my way, and I'm going to keep doing it healthy.